Hello, and let me congratulate you for taking this course. So this is the Python programming for beginners. If you don't know any programming language, or if you have no background with any programming language, it means if you don't know C, C++ or Java, okay, no need to worry about that, because this programming course or this Python programming course is completely for beginners. It's completely for absolute beginners. Okay, even if you have no experience with programming, this will be for you. This is the perfect programming course for you. Okay, so let's move ahead and we will start with this thing. Okay, so moving forward, this is me. My name is Atul Palandurkar. Okay, my name is Atul Palandurkar. I'm an author of NetBeans ID How To. It's a small book on Java. It's a small book on Java published from Pack Publications UK. Okay, then I am working on another book, that is Practical Java Programming for Beginners. Okay, that is from BPB Publications India. Then I am author of another book called Goal Setting, a 4-week challenge. It is for goal setting. Okay, if you have problems with goal settings and all, you can just refer this book as well. Then there's one more book recently I have published, that is 140 ways to work from home. Yes, you heard it correct, 140 ways to work from home and earn or generate a very good revenue. So you can do that as well. So you can refer these books as well. I'm a member of NetBeans Dream Team. I have received 12 awards till date. Okay, and I'm an Amazon trained e-commerce specialist as well. Okay, so if you want to start selling your products on Amazon, or if you want to onboard or register as a seller on Amazon, I can help you with that as well. I am also a member of Train the Trainer team with Google. I'm a digital marketer from year 2008. I have developed the complete Android certification module for Simplilearn UK. I am Oracle certified Java programmer, Oracle certified web component developer, and Oracle certified NetBeans platform associate. Okay, so this is Python. So why Python and all? So first of all, the Python is very simple and easy language. It's really a very simple and easy language. Okay, there are a lot of things which are related to Python which makes Python easy. For an example, you don't need to do a lot of things which we have to do or we are forced to do in some other languages like C, C++ or Java. Okay, then Python is object oriented programming language. Okay, so it's an object oriented programming language. Then this is a very general purpose language because we call it general purpose language because we can develop different type of applications using Python. Okay, and it's a high level language, so we don't need to compile it, we can directly interpret it. Okay, yes, this is a case sensitive language, similar to other languages, like if you take a language like C, C++ or Java, if you take any other programming languages, they are also case sensitive, and here also we have this case sensitive. Okay, so we'll see all those things practically. When we will go through the practical stuff. Okay, so and this is a very dynamically typed language. Okay, when we say dynamically typed, we don't need to define the variable like let's say integer I equals to 10 and then semicolon. Okay, so we don't need to do it here. Okay, we can directly define the variables on the go, or we can define the things on the go, and we can just start keep on typing other stuff, keep on writing other stuff, and it will be interpreted in that way. So as I was saying, it is an interpreted language. We don't need to compile it. It will directly interpret and we will give the output. Okay, so it runs a little faster as well. Indentation is the only thing we need to take care of. So instead of let's say using curly braces, we use indentation. That means some space. Okay, so we only need to worry about the spaces and all. Okay, so we need to maintain the number of spaces. Let's say if I have given 5 spaces, so I have to maintain that 5 spaces. Okay, so and it all because of that, again the code is very readable, it becomes easy to read the code and all. Okay, and one more feature, if we talk about let's say Python, the automatic memory management with Python. Okay, so that is really a very good feature with Python. Again, Moving ahead, the Python is platform independent. Python is platform independent means if we develop any program in Python, we can run the same program on different operating systems. Different operating systems, provided Python should be installed. Okay, provided Python should be installed. Okay, so if the Python is already installed, if the Python SDK, software development kit of Python or Python binary is already installed, okay, you can run Python programs on any of the machine, like may it be a Windows, Mac or Linux or whatever the operating systems we have. Okay, so we can use that, and we can develop different applications like console applications, desktop applications, web applications, mobile applications. And nowadays we are listening Python, or Python has boomed a lot. Okay, or Python is getting very much popular because of machine learning and artificial intelligence. Okay, so that is again a big thing nowadays. Okay, so that's why again because of these buzzwords as well, Python is getting very popular. Okay, and IoT applications as well, means Internet of Things applications as well. So we can define all such kind of applications in Python, Okay, then why Python again? So there is huge graphic library, or there are large libraries available like graphical user interfaces. Okay, web frameworks, we have a lot of web frameworks available like Kiwi or some other frameworks we have. Then multimedia frameworks. Okay, we have database, different databases support. We can have a networking libraries or test frameworks available. We also have a lot of automation frameworks available, using which we can automate a lot of things using Python. Even we can build a lot of web scraping applications using Python, and that becomes very easy with Python rather than other languages. Okay, as compared to other languages. Documentation is again there are a lot of libraries available for documentation and all, or we can also use it for reading, let's say the Excel sheets or Word files or something like that. Okay, we can generate PDFs as well using that. Then we have a lot of system administration libraries, scientific computing, text processing, image processing, and Internet of Things. Okay, so we have so many different types of libraries. I have just mentioned few of them. Okay, because I cannot mention all of them, but we have huge number of libraries related to a lot of domains and lot of things. Okay, we may require in everyday programming or something. Okay, so we have a lot of things like that. Moving ahead again, if we talk about some of the popular applications developed in Python. Okay, so there are so many applications which are developed in Python, but we are not even aware of it. That okay, because see, one thing again we are not aware but is Python was introduced, or Python was launched in 1991. But if we talk about the biggest rival or the biggest competitor of Python is Java, and Java was officially launched in 1995. So Java was officially launched in 1995. That means after 4 years of Python. Okay, but still, if we talk about some numbers, or if we see some numbers. Okay, so you can go on a website called TOB. Okay, you can go on a website called TOB. Okay, and TIOBE. Okay, so on TOB, or you can just Google TOB index. Okay, and you can check which language is performing or which language is on number 1. Okay, so all those things are there. Fine. So there are so many applications are developed in Python, and we are not even aware of it. Okay, so let me show you some of the logos so that you can understand which applications are developed in Python. Okay, again I have mentioned few of them. I cannot mention a lot of them on the slide. Okay, so I have just mentioned few of them. Okay, so the first is to start with, we have Google. So Google have used Python in so many places. So Google uses Python, or we can say Google is developed using Python. Then BitTorrent, if you have heard of it, we used to use it for downloading torrents and all. Okay, so BitTorrent is one. Then Pinterest is one of the social media. Okay, one of the leading social medias we have. That is again developed using Python. So a lot of its places. Okay, then Spotify, which is being heard, which is being a very popular podcast, or let's say audio platform. Okay, so that is again a very good platform. Okay, so developed again using Python. So and then we have Quora again developed using Python. Okay, so Quora is again developed using Python. That's again a big thing. And then we say Dropbox is again developed using Python. Okay, so you might have heard or used Dropbox at least for storing your files and all. Okay, so it's somewhat similar to, let's say, Google Drive. We can say the purpose is same. Okay, storing files and all. Okay, but the Dropbox is a different entity. So but Dropbox is again developed using Python. Then YouTube is again developed using Python. YouTube is again a very popular, nearly everyone now knows YouTube. Okay, and YouTube is again very popular network for videos and all. Okay, so YouTube is also developed using Python. Then if you say you must have used Uber somewhere. Okay, so Uber cabs or something, so you must have used Uber cabs or booked Uber cabs for yourself or for your loved ones. Okay, so Uber is again developed using Python. And one of the very famous or popular, or I think nearly everyone is on this particular platform now. So Instagram is again developed using Python. Okay, so Instagram is again the one platform which nearly everyone uses, and it is again developed using Python. Okay, so these are some of the few apps I have just mentioned, where Python is being used, or they have used Python to develop the features and apps and all those things. Okay, so as you can see, a lot of people are using Python, or very big companies are using Python as well, but we should know about it and we should work on it. Okay, so let's move ahead with the another slide. So here I am sharing some of the job openings available in the market. Okay, so I'm just searching on some of the slides. So here I have taken only 3 snapshots, but if you can see, we have on every slide I was searching for, let's say, machine learning job related to Python. Okay, so we have a huge opening. You have huge opening, like, okay, so if you say tons of job openings are there, okay, in the market. Let's say on this particular side we have 6,000 plus 6,600 plus jobs opening only in machine learning. And then again on this side, if you see, there are more than 12,700 jobs available. Okay, and again on, if you go to this website, okay, this is more than 8,000 jobs available. And this is only if you talk about let's say a particular place. I was only searching for US. It's only for US, if you say. Okay, but if you search for all over the world or somewhere other, there are tons of jobs or huge openings are available in the market. Okay, only thing is we need to learn those skill sets. Okay, and get the jobs. That's it. Okay, so let's move ahead with so here we can just see the average salary of machine learning engineer. Okay, so machine learning engineer average salary, so US pays around $134,000. Okay, so here it's a big again salary. Okay, so this is again a big salary. Okay, then if you see UK again pays 54,000 pounds salary. That's again a big package. Okay, then again in Canada, if you see 100,000 plus dollars salary is there. Okay, again in Australia, if you say 100,000 plus dollars salary is there. And again in India, if you see 8 lakh plus salary or package, we can say, or 800,000 plus packages there. So it's again a big package for, let's say, beginners or machine learning engineers. Okay, but for that again we need to have those skill sets. Okay, then we get this average salary. So this is the average salary. That means we have more and little less as well. Okay, but we need to check on that. Okay, so that's how we can just understand a lot of things are available in the market, and we can do a lot of things with the Python. Okay, and again let me tell you, it's really very easy. So we'll see through the journey of this program, okay, or this course, that how you can do a lot of programs easily and everything. Okay, so let me tell you, we are going to have so many practices here, so many assignments I'll be giving you sometime. Okay, and so many examples we will go through. Okay, so that you can understand each and everything. Okay, so I have crafted so many assignments as well, and the examples for you, so that you can understand each and everything in Python. Okay, and it will help you a lot in your curriculum or your career. Okay, so it will help you everywhere. Okay, So let's move ahead. So this is, if we talk about the let's say difference between artificial intelligence, machine learning and deep learning. So basically when we say deep learning is subset of machine learning, and machine learning is subset of artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence is a very broad picture or a big picture, okay, which comprises of machine learning, and machine learning holds so when we go niche, a bit of niche into it, so with that we can call it a deep learning. Okay, so that's how we can just easy or in short we can just say that. Okay, then again we will see sometime later. Okay, and let me thank you for this thing. Okay, so let's do some practicals now onwards. So in the next session we will start the practicals. Okay, so in next video we'll directly start with the practicals, because I feel we know the basics, we can understand this things. Now we have understood the basics, okay, what Python is and how it can be helpful for us. So we will start the practicals or the how we can use Python and everything. Okay, so let's move ahead. Hello everyone and welcome to lesson 2. So here we will see how we can download and install basically. Okay, so installation is, as always, it's simple. Just download and double click the things, okay, and just click on next and you will get it installed. Okay, but from where we can download Python and the required stuff, okay, or the ID. Okay, so first we will see how we can say, let's say I'll say search for Python download, and here I'm getting the link. Okay, here I'm getting the link Python org. Yeah, here I'm getting that link Python org, so I can just download that. Okay, so I'll just click on this first link, okay, Python org. So when I go to Python org, it's giving me the option to download that. So current version, it's showing me, okay, Python 3.8.3. we can decide for whatever operating system you are using, so Windows, Linux or Unix, Mac OS or other operating system. So you can just choose required operating systems, or you can just scroll down and you can select a specific version as well. If you want to select from a particular version, you can select that as well. Okay, so that's how you can just go and download. So I'll click on the download as of now, and the download will start. Okay, so the download will start. Then in another window, let's say I'll another tab, let's say I'll search for VS Code. Okay, download. Yeah, so it's showing me that. So if I search for VS Code download, again it's giving me option from, let's say, code.visualstudio.com and the download. Okay, so I'll just click on this link. So it will navigate me to the download page for Visual Studio Code. Okay, so here I can download this Visual Studio Code, okay, as per my operating system. So I can just go and select the operating system, so whatever version or let's say machine you have, okay, you can just click on download. Let's say for me it's Windows and 64-bit. okay, so Windows 10 and 64-bit. so I'll just click on this Windows 64-bit, so and it will start downloading. So here we can see it started downloading. Is started, okay, and it will download it quickly. So as we can see that this is also downloaded, Visual Studio Code is also downloaded. Okay, so we can go to the we can just click on installation or like that, or I'll go to the download files. So it is, let's say, downloaded, so we can just go and click on that and it will start, let's say, installation. Okay, so if I click on Python installation first, okay, it will show me that install option. So here I can just click on installation, and now the installation is started. So again it will install that. You just have to click on the stuff. Okay, I already have downloaded and installed Visual Studio Code, so I will not do it again. Okay, but it's very easy. Python is also already there, but this is the latest version. So this is how it's getting installed. Okay, so we can see that Python is installed now. The setup is successful. Okay, So you can just disable the path length limit. Okay, so you can change these things if it shows you. Okay, so it's saying that okay, changes your machine configuration to allow programs including Python to bypass 260 character max path limitation. So we can just click on that and it will be done, so you don't need to worry about that. Now you can just close this and you can install the Visual Studio Code as well. So once you install the Visual Studio Code, it's simple. After that, okay, what you can do is you can just set up a simple thing. You can just write a small code. Okay, I'll show you in the next video how you can do that. Okay, so see you in the next video. Hello everyone, welcome to this lesson. In this lesson we will see how the Visual Studio Code we can use for Python training. Okay, so here I have created a folder, let's say new folder. I have created a folder, and by clicking here I can create a new file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a simple new file, let's say hello.py. Okay, so I'll create a simple file hello.py. Okay, and as soon as I create the file, it is asking me to create to install the linter. This is a plugin we need to install. Okay, so you need to have the internet connected for this. Okay, so that only, so as soon as you click on this, it will start installing it. It's a small stuff, it's a small setup. Okay, so it will install it quickly. Depending on your internet speed, it may require max a minute or two. Okay, or max 5 minutes, not more than that. So as you can see that it's installing things fast. Okay, and as you can see that it's done. Okay, nearly it's done. Okay, and now it's done. Okay, so it's saying successfully installed and everything. Now it's back to the terminal so that we can see that. Okay, if I want, it can just clear that so that it's done. Okay, so it's done, we can see that now. Okay, so now we can run the Python code easily, and I can just go and write. Okay, let's say I'll write a simple statement called, let's say hello comma world and exclamation mark. Okay, like other languages, I don't need to specify the semicolon here. I don't need semicolon here. I can simply say like this. Okay, I have saved it, and now I can run this file in two different ways. Either I can right click and say run Python file in terminal, or I can use this run button. I can use this run button here. Okay, and I can run my code. So let's click on this button so that we can see this. Okay, so automatically we can see that. Okay, and we have got the output here. You can also run it using the Python command. You can write it like this. Let's say Python, let's say hello.py. You can write it like this as well, and you can hit enter so that again you get the output. Okay, so this is again the way. So there are three possible ways to run this file, and this is a terminal is already integrated here so that you don't need to go anywhere else and run your code. Okay, so you can directly type and run the code here only. You don't need to go anywhere else. Okay, so that's how we run a simple Python code. Okay, or if we want, we will just write another one, small statement. Okay, let's say let's learn and try Python programming language. Okay, so I have written a simple statement here. Okay, and again I'll try it from here. Let's say Python hello.py. Okay, and see, we are getting that output. Okay, so that's easy. The things are okay. So in the, that is it for this lesson, and we will see other things in the next lesson. Okay, so see you in the next lesson. Hello and welcome to the another lesson of Python programming for beginners. Okay, so in this lesson we will understand how we can declare or create variables in Python. So let's start with creating a file first. So let's call it let's say variables.py. Okay, so variables.py, so we have written that. And since Python is dynamically typed, we don't need to type it like this. Let's say we don't need to type it like this. Let's say x is equals to 5 or something like that. I don't need to define it like this, or I don't need this semicolon as well to terminate this. I can directly write it like this. Okay, I don't need to define anything here, and this is considered as integer. So this is the way to write comment. Now I am writing a comment. So this will considered as integer. We don't need to define it here. Okay, so we don't need to define the data type here before that or something like that. Okay, we don't need to define it that. Then again, if I, let's say y equals to 3.14, so this is again considered as float. This is again considered as float. So I don't need to define that again. Okay, then even if I declare string, okay, so I can directly write it like, let's say ABC, and this is considered as string, so I don't need to define that again. So as I already told you, Python is dynamically typed language, and we can directly go and write these stuffs, or we can directly declare values with the variables and it will consider it internally. We don't need to explain, or I don't need to write the data type. Okay, so let's try and print the value. So let's say print x, then let's say print the value of y, and we'll try to print the value of, let's say, z as well. Okay, so like this, and let's open the terminal. So I can go to view and I can click on terminal, so it will open the terminal. I can also use the shortcut control and the tilde. Okay, so and let's type in the command. Let's say python variables, okay, dot py. Okay, so python variables.py. I hit an enter, tab, so that's why it is using this slash and all. Basically we don't need to type it here, but again, if it is there, no need to worry. Okay, so python variables.py. okay, and if I hit enter, see, I can get the output. Okay, I can get the output. So this is again simple. We can see that. Okay, so this is simply, we can dynamically type variables, and we don't need to write down the data types. Okay, so hope you have understood this simple thing, how we declare the variables. So see you in the next lesson. Hello and welcome to another lesson of Python programming for beginners. Okay, in this lesson we will see how we can write comments in Python. So let's start with creating another file. Let's call it let's say comments.py. okay, so we'll call it comments.py, and here we will understand how we can write the comments. So let's start with the single line comment. So if you want to write a single line comment, we have to initiate with the hash. Okay, and then you can write the text. Let's say this is a single line comment. Okay, so like that I have written this. Then if you want to write multi-line comment, you have to initiate multi-line comment with, let's say, 3 time quotes and 3 time uncode. So in between that you can write your multi-line comment. Let's say this is multi-line comment. Okay, so like this, even if you want, you can break it like that. So multiple lines you can write. Okay, so this is multi-line comment, you can write it like that. Let me write a simple print statement here. Okay, so just to check whether this comments worked, okay, or not. So comments are generally not read by the interpreter. Comments will not be read by the interpreter, and it will not produce any output. So we'll just to check. Okay, so let's say comments are not read. Okay, so comments are basically for us. We should always write comments. We should always write comments in code, because when you write comments in code, the code becomes readable, more readable, and you can understand. Let's say what happens sometimes is you may forget that, okay, why you have written particular piece of code or block of code. Okay, so that again you can remind or remember after reading comments. Okay, and a lot of things, or you can pass your code to other people as well, and they can also read the comments to understand your code and all. Okay, so that's how you can just try those things. So let's check the comment, how we can see that. Okay, so I'll again, let's say, execute this. So let's say comments dot dot py. Okay, and if I execute that, see, we are getting this output print statement, okay, from the print statements that comments are not read, but we are not getting anything out of this. So this is how we can deal with comments, and hope you have understood how we can write the comments in Python. So see you in the next lesson. Hello and welcome to another lesson of Python programming for beginners. In this lesson we will see how we can add two numbers. So we will perform a basic addition here. So let's create a file first. Let's call it addition.py. Now let's create x equals to, I'll say 10, I'll say y equals to, let's call it 20, and z equals, we will say x plus y. Okay, so that's how we will get it. Okay, and let's print the values, respective values. So let's print first print x, then we will call, let's say, print y, and in the end we will print the value of z, so that we can just check. So let's try with the terminal. Let's execute the program. So we will try to execute this, let's say using Python. So let's call it Python addition.py. okay, and here we get the output. So x is 10, y is 20, and the addition is 30. So that is how we can perform the simple addition with Python. Okay, so it's again very simple. So here we have tried the basic addition, simply hard-coded values we have taken, and we have just tried the basic addition here. So hope you have understood this. See you in the next lesson. Hello and welcome to another lesson of Python programming for beginners. Okay, so in this lesson we will learn about numbers, how we can define the different type of numbers. Okay, so I'll say numbers.py. I am creating a new file, numbers.py. Let's create few numbers here. Let's call it, let's say a equals to I'm saying 10, let's say b equals, I'm saying whatever, let's say 5.2. okay, and let's declare another number, let's say c equals to 1j. okay, so this is going to be the complex number. Okay, so if I talk about this, let's say this is going to be the integer. If I talk about this, okay, this is a float. Okay, and this is of type, let's say complex. So this is a complex number. Okay, if I want to print them, or let's check what type they have internally, because we have seen initially that okay, we can directly initialize the variables like that, but what type, sometimes if we don't know what is the type of variable, we can check that using a type method, type function. So let's try that. Let's say print, and inside print I'm directly calling type method, and type function we can say. So in that we will directly call that method. Okay, I'll pass the variable, so it will print the type of that variable. Let's check again for let's say we will check now for b, and and in the end let's say we will check once for c as well. Okay, so that's how we can just go and check. Let me try and execute this first. So let's call it, let's say Python numbers.py. okay, so here we are getting that output that okay, this is the class integer, then we have the second is for float, and third is for complex. Okay, so we can see that. Okay, let's add a few more number so that we can understand the things. So for now I'll just close the terminal. Let's call it d equals to, or let's say equals -1. I don't need to use this. Then let's say e equals to I'll say 3e raised to 4 like that. Okay, so I'll just declare it like that. So this is again gonna be the float. And if I say f equals to let's say 3 plus I'll say like this, 3 plus 5j. okay, or whatever you want to call it. Okay, so again if we say this is gonna be, let's say integer, then if we talk about this is again gonna be the float. Okay, and this is again complex. Okay, so for these again we will try and check. Let's type. Okay, so let's try type, let's say d, and let's again we will print the type of e, and in the end we will check the type of let's say f. Okay, so we will print those values as well. This is, we have used -1, so this is going to be actually negative int. Okay, so this is going to be the negative int. Okay, so let's check and execute that again. So we will execute that again. So I just used a shortcut here to get it typed. Okay, so and if I execute again, you can see int, float and complex. It is the for first A, B and C. Then again, if you see, it's int, float and complex. So again, if it is even negative integer, but the type of that is int, because it's a whole number. Okay, but here when we use this E and okay, so it goes float. Okay, it is float. Okay, so that's how we can understand what are the types of numbers are there, or how we can understand the type, or how we can check the type of a particular number or variable. Okay, particular variable. Okay, so we can check the type of particular variable. Let's try one more. Let's say if I say g equals to, if I write it like this, let's say A, B and C or whatever. Okay, and if I want to print that, let's say print type G. Okay, so what will be the output here? Okay, so let's run that again. So here we are getting str. Here if you can see that in the end. Okay, and the type of that G is str, that is string. Okay, so type function will return the type of it. Okay, so that we can understand its type. Okay, and we can check that very easily. Okay, hope you have understood this, how we can check the type of a particular variable or number or here in Python. Okay, so see you in the next lesson. Hello and welcome to another lesson of Python programming for beginners. In this lesson we will understand how the plus operator works in Python. So let's create a file first. Let's call it a plus operator.py. Okay, so and we will declare some variables. Let's say x equals 5, then y equals 3. Let's call z equals let's say abc. Okay, so we can try things like that. Let's say print. If I say print okay, so if I want to print something, let's say I want to print it with a good one, let's say hello, and if I want to concatenate it with, let's say, another value, so let me give some small space and I'll say z. Okay, so it should print hello abc. It should print hello abc. Okay, then I'll use another print statement here. Now I'll say let's call it, let's say hello. I'll keep a little space here. Then if I want to add some another text, I can directly truncate any another text as well. Let's call it xyz. Okay, so I can connect that as well. So here again this will concate. So if you talk about this, this should give me the output as, let's say, hello abc. Okay, and if you see this, this should give me the output as hello xyz. Okay, so in both the cases this is concatenating the strings. Okay, so here if you see z is a string, okay, z is a string, and xyz is directly a string we are passing here. Okay, so in both the cases, when both the operands of this plus operator, here again we see it is a string, and here again it is a string, here again it is a string, and here again it is a string. So in both the cases now both the operands are string, so it will concate. Okay, now if I say print let's call it x plus y. Okay, x plus y. Okay, so in both the cases now the operands are number. In both the cases now the operands are number, so we should get the addition. So if we say 5 plus 3, we should get 8. Okay, so this will print addition. This will print addition. Okay, so this will print the addition since both the operands are numbers. Okay, but let's try another stuff now. Okay, let's say if I say x plus z, so one is string, one is number, one is string, one is number. So this will not print addition, or this will not concatenate. This will give me an error. Okay, this will give me an error. Okay, so this will throw an error. So let's see the not of same type. So in Python, basically both operands should be of same type. So here it is of same type, both are string. Here again both are string, so it will concate. Here both are numbers, so it will perform the addition. Basically it will perform the addition. Okay, but in this case both operands are of not same type. One is number, one is string, so it will throw us an error. Okay, so let's check that with the terminal. We will try to execute that. Let's call it like Python and plus operator dot py. Okay, so if you can see the output, the first hello abc as expected it's showing me. Second again hello xyz as expected, we have the output. Again 8, that is it has performed the addition. But if you see last statement xyz, it is giving us an error that unsupported operand type. Okay, if you can see it is explaining in a proper way as well. Okay, so that we can understand everything. So file name is given, line number 7 is also given. Okay, and it's also printing that line, so print xyz. Okay, and means error definition or description is also given, like okay, there is a type error and it is saying that unsupported operand type for plus, integer and string. Okay, so both are of different type, that is why we have the error here. Okay, so if you see let me try another one. Let me show you another one. What I'll do is I'll create another one. Let me call it a let's say, and we will say a equals to 10. Okay, but since I have written this in quotes, this is a is not integer. Now this is again a string. Let's just try with this as well. So what if I say x plus a? Okay, so again one is string, one is number, one is string, one is number. Okay, so x is integer and a is string. So again here what we should get is we should get an error. Okay, we should get an error. So let's try that again. Okay, but for this I'll have to comment this because that will not show it. Okay, so or let's try again directly from the okay, so if you can see that we are getting that output now. So on line number 10, and we are getting that okay, x plus a, and again we have the same error. Okay, so why I have commented this again, if I do that and if I run it again, you can see it's showing me only error from line 7 and it is not showing other errors. So generally Python stops on the first error, and then when you solve this, then only it shows you the other error. So that is again a good thing, so that you don't get confused with a lot of errors. So that's how we can use the plus operator, and this is one of the important concept. Initially you should understand how the plus operator works, because we use plus operator a lot of places or so many times for concatenating or for a lot of other purposes. Okay, hope you have understood this and you don't have any doubt with this. Okay, so see you in the next lesson. Hello everyone, and welcome to the another lesson of Python programming for beginners. So let's start with first of all we will create a file. So let's call it typecasting.py. So we'll call it typecasting.py. So first of all we should understand what exactly typecasting is. Okay, or so what do you mean by typecasting? Okay, so when we say typecasting, it is basically forceful conversion. Okay, forceful conversion of one data type into another. Okay, so forceful data means, so whenever we say forceful conversion of one data type into another, so that is basically typecasting. So why do we need typecasting? And also a lot of time what happens is we need to convert from one data type to another. Okay, as per the requirement, if we require some things. Okay, and then we do that. So let's see a small example for that. So we will see a small example. Let's say a equals, I'll say a equals 1, then I'll say b equals, let's say 2.5, and we will say c. Now this is I'll say a string. Okay, so let's say 3. Okay, so and let's print the original values. Now let's print the original values. So here what I'll do is I'll say, let's say print A, then print value of B, and let's say print the value of C. So here we are printing the original values. Now here we are simply printing the original value of A, B and C. Okay, now let's try to convert the value of, let's say, each and every variable so that we can use that. So here if we say C is string, okay, C is string, it's an we see that, okay, 3 is a number we have passed in C, okay, but it is passed in quotes, okay, so that means it's a string, so let's convert this C into an integer. So to do that, let's declare D, and I'll say, okay, I have to convert that, so I'll call an integer function. Now an integer function we will pass C, so this will basically convert this. Okay, so this will so this will convert, okay, the C into integer. Okay, this will convert into integer. Okay, so okay, so it will work like that. So this will typecast, or we will say convert into integer. So let's print the value of D. Okay, so if I print D, now we can print the value of D. Okay, let's try to check. Okay, let's check whether it is converted or not, because if we remember, as of last thing we have seen, so plus operator, so if both the value are of not same time, it will not work. Okay, so let's call it E, and we will print the value, or we will just try to perform the addition of, let's say, let's say A plus D, so that is 1 plus it's gonna be 4. Okay, it's gonna be 4. Okay, so it's gonna be 4. Now let's print E. So let's just to check whether it is working fine or not. Okay, so let's try to do that. Okay, so as of now we'll just give it a try, and we will run this piece of code so that we can just check whether it's working fine or not. Okay, so let's call it Python then type casting.py. Okay, so you can see that the value of A is 1, B is 2.5, C is 3, that is string, but it will print. Okay, so D is now again 3. Okay, and the addition is performed, we are getting 1 plus 3, that is 4. Okay, that means it's working exactly fine. That means it's working exactly fine. And here the C is converted into integer, and we pass that into D. That's why it's performing that addition, otherwise we would have got the error. Okay, so let's try and convert some other values as well. Let's see how we can convert the other values. Okay, so let's check. Let me call it F. Let's say F equals to let's say integer of B. So if I say integer of B, okay, this is basically the B. If I say this is the float value, this is the float value. Okay, the B is float value. Okay, and if I say integer of B, okay, so here it will convert float value into, let's say, integer. We will get okay, or let's say like this. Okay, so we will get 2 instead of let's say okay, 2.5. so it will leave the decimal point, okay, because we are converting that into integer, and when we say integer is basically a whole number. Okay, so it will leave the decimal point. Okay, let's try and check, okay, what we are getting in F. Let's say F, so let's convert that. Okay, so we'll print the F. Okay, so we have converted that. Now we will print the F, and we'll check what we will get. Okay, so we should get the other 2 only instead of 2.5. so let's run this piece of code again. So let's try. So here if you can see, now we are getting 2. Okay, in the end last is 2 instead of 2.5. okay, so that's how we can get the thing. Okay, let's try a few more. Okay, so what if we want to convert let's say let me call it first, let's say G equals to, what if I convert it into float? If I convert any value into float, let's convert A into float. So A is equals to 1, so it's an integer. If I convert that into float, okay, what will happen? Okay, so it will, let's say, convert int into float. Okay, it will convert int into float now. Okay, so what if I print that? Let's say print G. So if we print the value of G, what we will get? Okay, so let's try that again. Let's run it again. Now we are getting 1.0, so a decimal point is added, okay, to this. And now that and we can understand that, okay, that is converted, means the integer is converted into float. Let's call it first h. And let's say, what if I want to convert a number into string? Okay, so here if you see, we convert that str, okay, let's say string into number. Here we converted string into number, okay. But what if I want to convert a number into string? So I can use str function here, and let's pass the value. Let's say I'll pass the variable a. So if I pass a, this 1 is now converted into a string, okay, that 1 is converted into a string. And if I say, let's say I equals, let's say c plus c plus h, okay, and let's print that. So we will it will get concatenate. Now it will concat, okay. So here if you see, it performed addition, okay, performs addition, okay, it performed addition. But here if we talk about this particular line, okay, performs concatenation, okay, so it performs concatenation. Let's check that now. So we'll print it. Let's say print the I, okay, so we'll print I, and let's see what output we get, okay. So let me try that again. So here if you see, it has performed the concatenation. It won't be 3 plus 4, 3 plus 1 is 4, okay, so it won't be 3 plus 1 because both are string. Since both are string, it will perform the concatenation, okay. So it's like 31 it's showing, okay, but it performed the concatenation. So hope we have understood that how we can perform the typecasting and how we can do that, okay. This we can do with a lot of different purposes, okay. Let me show you one more stuff for an example. Let's say if you want to print some value, okay, let's say I want to print it like this. Let's say I want to print a equals to value of a. So instead of plus a, I cannot directly write a, because now this a is, let's say, string, this is the string, and here we have integer, okay. So this will throw me an error, okay. So if I do it right now, if I execute it right now, see it's showing an error, okay, can only concatenate let's say string not integer to string, okay. So that's why we get the error, that's why we will get the error, okay. So we will get the error here. But what we will say is, we can convert that a. So I'll do it like this. Let's say I'll convert it like this. So we call the string function here. We will typecast this, and now if I run this again, it will run it properly. It will run properly. So you can see that now a equals to 1, okay. So this is again we can use. So these are some use cases where we can go and use this, okay. So this is where we used it, okay. So we may require it at so many places, and that is why it is again required. So that was one of the important topic, typecasting. Hope you have understood this and there is no doubt with this. See you in the next lesson. Hello and welcome to another lesson of Python programming for beginners. Let's start with creating a small file, okay. So let's call it input.py. So we will learn how we can take input in Python, okay. So let's start with printing a message. Let's say print enter the name, so that we can take input the name, okay. So let's say n equals to, I'll call input method, so or input function, whatever you want to say. So this is the function which will take input, and let's print that with a text now. So let's call it, let's say hello, and I'll say concat n. So it will print the message, or it will print the text, okay. So it will print hello, whatever name we pass, okay. So let's run this, okay. So let's call it a Python input.py, okay. So it's prompting us enter the name, and the cursor is there in the next line, so we can write the name. Let's say ABC. So if I hit the enter, okay, we can get hello ABC, Let's add another, let's see if there is another way. Basically we have another way, or we can call it a small shortcut way to take input, okay. So what there is. So here if you see, we have used 3 lines. Here we see we have used 3 lines. Okay, so we have used a message, okay, and then we are using the input here, and then we are printing it here. Okay, so we can do it in 2 lines. What I can say is, let's say I can directly say name equals to, I can directly call input method. Okay, in this I'll directly give a message. Let's say enter the name, and I'll say like this. Okay, so it will take input here only, and then I can, let's say, print, let's use this similar structure. Let's say hello, and we'll concat that with name. Okay, so let's see how it works. Okay, so let me run this again from the terminal. So it's for the first input, let's say ABC, and now for the second one it's asking me directly with the message, let's say enter name, and if I say XYZ, it's printing hello XYZ as well. So this is how we can take the input with Python. Hope you have understood this. This is really very simple. The main thing we need to understand is we use input method. So we can use input blank, so this will go to the next line and it will ask you for the input. You can even use the input with the message directly, so that it prints the message and takes the input. So in both the way you can use this. Hope you have understood this. So see you in the next lesson. Hello and welcome to another lesson of Python programming for beginners. In this lesson we will perform addition with 2 numbers. Those we will take the input. So initially we have performed the addition with hard-coded numbers. Now we will take the input from the user and then we will perform the addition. So let's see how we can do that. So first we will create a file, add with input.py. So we have created a file here. Now we will perform the addition. Let's say print, or I can say initially, or you can directly say, let's say x equals to input. I'll give a message directly. Let's say enter the number 1. Okay, I'll copy it. I'll say again, let's say instead of this, let's say it's z. Okay, so we'll say instead of z we will say y. Okay, so we will take 2 numbers as input, and now let's say z equals to x plus y. Okay, so x plus y. So this is how we will just execute this. Okay, and we can try that, but here we will face an issue here. Okay, here we will face a problem because this x and y will have the string input. Okay, so whenever we say input, whenever we use the input method, the input is always in string format. The input is always in string format. Okay, so input is always, let me repeat that. Okay, so input is always in string format. Okay, so we will have to convert it. That means we will have to typecast it, then only we can perform the addition. So as of now, if we say this is the let's say if I perform it like this, this is only both of them are string, so we will get concatenation, we won't get the output. Okay, so let's try to check that. Let's say print if I say if I say z. Okay, so we will not get the output, we will get the concatenation. Okay, it will not perform the addition. Let's check that once so that we can understand the things. So here we will execute that. Let's say Python add with input.py. Okay, so enter the number 1. Let's say it's saying so number 1, so I'll say 10, and enter number, again it's saying 1. That's my mistake. Okay, so let's say 20. Okay, so it's saying 1020. It's saying 1020. It has performed the concatenation, not the addition. Okay, so let's correct this. Let's write it little properly. Okay, so like this, and we'll give some space. Okay, so let's correct this. Now what we have to do is we have to typecast this. So let's say integer of x, and here again we will convert that into integer of y. Okay, so that's how we can just do that. Okay, and now if I print it, it will print the addition. So let's try that again. So if I print, let's say 10 and now the 20. Okay, so it's printing 30. So this time it has performed the addition. So hope you have understood why we need typecasting again, and how we can use those methods to perform the addition and all those things. So okay, so this is how we can just simply perform a small addition. This is just an example I just wanted to show you. Okay, because string is all means whenever you take input, so it is always in string format. Okay, so keeping that in mind, we'll have to convert them to integer or float. Okay, again best practice will always be to convert it into float. Okay, because you never know the value is in decimal point or what. Okay, so user may give it in decimal points as well. Okay, so user may pass the decimal values as well. So if I pass, let's say 10.5 and 20.5, okay, so it should print 31. It should print 31 now. Okay, so it's correctly adding it now. But if I used integer, if I had used the integer, it would have printed only 30, because it would have taken only integer part of it. Okay, so that's again, you should always use float. Okay, as of the best practice, because you never know the what values user may feed in. Okay, so you should always use float. Okay, so that's again a thing. So I hope you have understood this, and see you in the next lesson. Hello and welcome to another lesson of Python programming for beginners. In this lesson we will learn about string and its methods. Okay, so let's create a new file. Let's call it string handling.py. Okay, so now we will see how we can handle the strings, different strings. So let's call it, let's say string handling. Let's give it a small title so that we can understand. Okay, let's create a small string. I'll create a string here. Let's say hello comma world. Okay, and I'll give an exclamation mark as well. Okay, so we have created a small string here, hello comma world exclamation mark. Okay, so we will see different string functions here now, but to start with, let's say first let's print the string as it is. Let's see how we can do it. Okay, so let's run this piece of code first to check whether it's working fine or not. So we will type, let's say python string handling, okay, dot py, and it's printing the output. It's working perfectly fine. So let's move ahead with the things, and I'll delete that. Okay, so that we can just try and write other things. Okay, so here we have simply printed a Python or the string as it is now. Okay, so we will try the different methods of string now. Okay, to start with, we will write a small piece of method, or a small method which is length. Okay, which we can use to find the length of the string, which we can use to find the length of the string. Okay, so let's start with the writing print. Okay, so we will print so let's start with writing print first. So we will see how we can find the length of the string. Okay, so we will write a small method len. Okay, and we will write the variable here. Okay, so this will print this method will basically print the length, okay, of string. Okay, that means it will print actually the number of characters. Okay, so it will basically returns number of, let's say, characters, okay, in string. Okay, number of characters in string. So this is how it works. Okay, so let's try and execute that again just to check whether it works or it returns perfectly fine or not. So let's say python string handling dot py. Okay, and see it's returning the number of characters as well. So if you can see the string hello world, okay, so it has total 13 characters, including this space, okay, comma and exclamation mark, so including space and the special characters. Okay, so that's how it's printing it. Then let's check with some other stuff. So what I'll do is I'll say print a and square brackets. So in square brackets, let's say I'll print 1. I'll write 1. Okay, so it will return the character from given index number. Okay, so this will basically return, okay, this returns the character of given index number. Okay, so you can write like this. Okay, so let's say like this. Okay, so let's check this as well, what it gives the output. Okay, so we are getting E. So here if you can see index number 1, when I say it's printing E, so index number always starts with, let's say, 0, always starts with 0. So if I say 0 is H, 1 is E, it's like that. Okay, so it works like this. Then if I go to the next, let's say print, and I'll say again square bracket, a square bracket, but this time instead of passing one number, let's say I'll pass 2:5. Okay, 2:5, that means 2 is the start index and 5 is the end index. Okay, 2 is the start index and 5 is the end index. So this basically returns the substring. Okay, so this returns the substring, okay, with given index numbers. Okay, so given index numbers, basically I can say with given with start index number and the end index number. Okay, so it's like that. Okay, so let's see that as well, how it works. So if I execute that again, now it's giving me, okay, LLO. That means if you see, it's not giving me, so it is giving LLO. So this is L is 2, this is 3, and this is 4. Okay, so this is 4. Okay, sorry, yeah, so that is LLO, it's printing LLO. So it's not printing the character from 5. Okay, so you always understand, whenever you give this index number, you have to understand this thing here. Whenever you pass the index number, that is the end index number, so it will go up to that, not that particular character. Okay, so it will start from 2 and it will stop at 5, but 5 will not be printed, so it will print the character from index number 2, 3 and 4. Okay, so that is why it's printing only 3 characters here. Okay, or in other words, you can say this is the end index, so you can say end index minus 1, end index minus 1. Okay, so it will go to 2 to 4. Okay, so 2, 3 and 4, it will print the characters from 2, 3 and 4. Okay, so let's move ahead with another example. Okay, so let's try and print, or you will use now a small method here. Okay, so let's try, I'll use a method called split. Okay, so in this method, what I can do is I can pass a particular character. With which I want to split the word or the string. Okay, so in this string, let's say we can use space or we can use this comma. So let's use comma here. We will use comma here to separate the string. Okay, so this will basically, if you see, separates the string. Okay, or we can say split the string. Okay, whatever you want to say, separates the string with given delimiter. Okay, so given delimiter. Okay, so it will work with that. Yeah, so let's check the output. Okay, so we'll execute that again, and now if you can see, it is giving me a list, okay, of different words. Okay, it is giving me a list of different words. Here you can see hello is separated with the comma, so comma is not printed here. Okay, so it has separated with comma, and again if you see another word, space and world. Okay, so we can use it like this. Fine, so that's how we can just use a split. Okay, let's check that with another string or something like that. Okay, so let's say b equals to, I'll write a small string, let's say as per survey. Okay, it let's say it is 62% better. Okay, so here percent we cannot use directly, so I'll use like this. Okay, in that's a special character, so we cannot use directly. Okay, so percent better, let's say with live instructor. Okay, so just a small statement we have added. Okay, so and now let's say I'll call again, let's say print b dot, I'll call it split. Okay, and in split, let's say I'll pass space now, okay, because there is nothing and we haven't used any character or something like that. So what I'll do is I'll just use space here to execute this, okay, and let's try and execute that again. So here, if you can see, we have got a complete list of okay, so words, the words are separated, all the words are separated here, okay, with the space, okay. So all the words we can see here in this list, so it has returned a list, okay, with all the words, okay. So that's how we can just try this split method, okay. So this is how we can use the split, okay. Let's try another one. Let's say C equals to this time I'll say a string. Let's add some space here, okay, and hello, and some other extra space here, okay. So what happens, I have just added this space now intentionally, but by mistake sometime we may add the space. Initial space may be visible while adding input or something, but sometimes what happens is we are not able to locate this extra space in the end, okay, and that may go as a wrong input, or it may take space in database as well, so you may have a lot of other issues, okay. So if I initially, let's print it as it is so that we can understand. So let's print C as it is, and then we will print the C which remove we will remove those spaces now, okay. So I'll say C dot, we have a method called strip, so we will use this method. This method will basically removes all the, okay, white spaces, okay, removes white spaces from beginning and end, okay. So beginning and end, okay, or instead of that I can write, let's say prefix and postfix, okay. So prefix and postfix white spaces, okay. It will not remove the spaces in between, you need to keep that in mind. Let's say if there is a space in between, let's say if this is a string, okay, so if this is a string, this will not remove this space, it will not remove this space, but it will remove this space and this space, okay. So you need to keep that in mind again. So this strip will remove the prefix and postfix spaces, okay. So let's try that as well. We'll run that code again. So here, if you can see here, we have got this output, okay, with the space, yeah. So here we have this output with the space, and in the another output, if you can see here, we don't have the space there, okay. So that's how we can just use this, the strip, okay. So let's move ahead with another method here, okay. So let's do one thing. What I'll do is, now I want to replace a particular string or a character. I just want to replace a particular character with a new character, okay. So we'll see how we can do that. So let's print that output directly. So I'll say a dot, we have a method called replace, so in replace we have to pass two characters. First is old character, second is the new character, okay. So here, let's say I'll use H and I'll use let's call it Y, okay. So I have passed two characters here. So first is let's say H and second is Y, okay. So whatever character you want to use, you can just use, okay. So let's try this, or let's use C with this, okay. So I'll okay, and so this will replace the old character with the new character. So this replaces the let's try run and check this again, okay. So here, if you can see, we are getting this output, okay. So yellow world, okay, instead of hello world we are getting yellow world, okay. So that's how we will get this output, okay. So if you want, I'll just check it with the A, so you can just try this, okay. So yellow world, okay. So that was the original string in A, so hello world, and instead of this H, it is replaced with Y, okay. What if I use a particular character which is used multiple time here, okay. So in this string, let's say LL is there, so L is 3 times used there, here is in hello 2 times, and the world is third time. Again, if I say O is used 2 times, okay. So let's try O with, let's say we will replace O with U, okay, and see what happens here, okay. So let's execute. If you can see here, it will replace each and every character. Okay, so it will replace all the occurrences of that particular character. Every time O was there, so O is replaced with U. So we have to be little careful while using this. We have to be little careful while using replace. Okay, otherwise we may get an end up in trouble. Okay, because we have to be little careful with this. So let's move ahead with the another example. So let's say or another method. Okay, so let's say print a dot, I'll say lower. Okay, so I'll use a method called lower. Okay, this method will convert. Okay, so this will convert let's say string into small letters. Okay, and if I use upper, there is another one that is called upper. So let me call it like this, a dot, let's say upper. Okay, so if I use this one, this will convert the string. Okay, so this will convert the string into capital letters. Okay, so let's give it a try. Let's give it a try with this. Okay, so we'll run it from here, and if you can see here, we are getting it like that. So this is completely into small letters because of lower. We use the lower method here, and the last is the completely capital letters. Okay, since we used upper method here. Okay, with the help of these methods, we can handle strings in a different way as per the requirement. Okay, so I hope you have understood this. Okay, and see you in the next lesson. Hello and welcome to another lesson of Python programming for beginners. In this lesson we will see and we will learn about the list in Python. So how we can use list in Python. So what exactly list, we will see that first. Okay, so let me share a few things with you. So I have already written few little theory for you guys. So what exactly the list is? The list is a data structure in Python that is mutable or changeable. We can say that means we can change the elements of list, and we can add, remove elements, we can append. Okay, we can insert elements. So we will see all those things. And the new list is ordered sequence of elements. So that means there is an order, so that you can that means you can handle or you can access the elements of this list with the help of index numbers and all. That also means you can clone or we can create the copy of the list as well. Okay, so lists are just dynamic sized arrays, very similar to vector in C++, or we use array list and all in Java, so collection classes in Java. So it's like that. Okay, so lists need not to be homogeneous always, which makes it most powerful tool in Python, and that's why you will see it being used often, or most of the time people use list. Okay, whenever they want to handle some data and all. Okay, so this means single list may contain data types like integer, string, as well as objects. In other words, we can say that the list can contain different types of elements, and that's a great thing we have. So let's define the list. So how we can define list? So let me call it list 1. I'll just call it list 1, and we can define the list using square brackets. Okay, in this now we can just add a few, let's say let me say something like this. So I'll create a simple list with, let's say, alphabets like this, and let's say D, then let's say let me add one more. Okay, so A B C D E like that. So we have added some 5 elements now. Let's see how we can deal with the other things. Okay, so this is how we have just created a list. Let's see how we can print the list. If I want to print print the list. Okay, so what I can do it. So basically it's very simple. So to print the list, again we will use the print statement here, and we will simply pass the list to it. Okay, so that's how we can simply just print the list. So let's try and run this program first so that we can see the output. So let's run that. Let's call it Python, and we'll say list demo.py. Okay, so as we can see, it's printing in the square brackets as we have created it. Okay, as we have created it, similarly it has printed it. Okay, so list is printed. So let's check how we can create or how we can access the elements. Okay, so if I say if I want to access the elements. Okay, so let's see how we can access the elements of, let's say, list. Okay, so elements of a particular list or a particular element of the list. Okay, so if I want to access the particular element of a list, what I can do is I can simply say list and list1 and square bracket. I need to pass the index number. Say if I pass the index number 3, it will print element which is on index number 3. So again, keep that in mind. Index numbers are always similar to other languages like C, C++, Java. Okay, indexing always starts with 0. So if I say if I'm passing 3, so the indexing starts with 0, so that means 0 is A, 1 is B, and C is 2, and D is 3. Okay, so we should get 3. So let's see the output again. If we get, let's say, Python, and if I say list demo.py, see, we are getting D. Okay, so that's how I hope you have understood that. Okay, so let's move ahead with the next stuff. So how we can find the total number of, let's say, elements. Okay, so if I say, if I want to check the total number of the elements in a list. Okay, so if I want to print the total number of elements in the list, again what I have to do is I'll use a length function here. I'll use a length function here and I'll pass the list to it. Okay, so let's say list 1. Okay, so it will print the total number of that. So let me run that program again. Now you can see total number of the element is 5. Okay, so as we can see that output as well. Then moving ahead, if I want to let's say if I just want to check any element, okay, or if I want to replace any element. Okay, so fine, now we already have few elements here, and if I want to replace particular element, how I can do that? Okay, so let's say if I want to replace an element from list. Okay, so what we can do here is, what I'll do is I'll say list1 square brackets, I'll pass the index number which I want to replace. Let's say if I want to replace 3 only, if I want to replace 3 only, so instead of, let's say, D, okay, I want something else. Let's say instead of D I want F. Okay, so let me write it capital. Yeah, so let's say instead of means on place of 3, index number 3. Okay, so there is D now. Instead of that I want to have F. Okay, so make sure this is a simple syntax. So we will say, okay, list1 of 3, okay, equals F. And now if I print the list, let's say if I print the list, let's say list 1, okay, and if I try to print that list, let's see what we get. So we are getting F. Okay, so as you can see that initially when it was the list, and initially A, B, C, D, E, then we have printed, let's say, the element 3, then the total length of that list is 5, and after replacing, okay, as you can see here, D is replaced with F, D is replaced with F. Okay, so that is how we can see it works. That's how it works. So let's say if I want to find the index number, okay, of an element. Let's say you know the element but you don't know the index number of that. Okay, so how you will find the index number of that particular element? Okay, so for an example, I'll say x equals to, let's say, list 1. Okay, so I'll say list1 dot, I'll use a function called index. I'll use a function called index. Okay, and in index, if I'll pass the element, let's say if I pass C, okay, and if I want to print, let's say, x, okay, so this will give me the index number from that particular element, of that particular element. So if I run this code again, in the end, if you can see, I'm getting 2. I'm getting 2. That means the C is on 2. So as we know, 0, 1 and 2. Okay, as the index always starts with 0, we are getting 2. Okay, so that's how we can simply check. Okay, then if I want to add any particular element, okay, if I want to add a particular element in the list, how I'll be able to add? Basically, instead of add, I'll say if I want to append any element. Okay, sorry, if I want to append any particular element. Okay, so how will I do it? Append and let's say element. Okay, so when we say append, it's always in last. Okay, so append an element in the list, so it will be always in the added in the end. Okay, so if I want to add a particular element in the list, how I can do that? Okay, so that's again very simple. I'll use list 1 first. So list 1 that, and then append. Okay, so in append now I'll add the element. So if I say, let's say G. Okay, if I say G, so I'll just see it like this, and I'll just say, let's say print, and let's print that list again. Okay, so list 1. Okay, and now if I run this program, okay, let me run this program again. So as you can see that the G is added in the end. Okay, so A, B, C, F, E, G. Okay, so D was replaced with F, and then G is there. Okay, so the G is added in the end. Okay, but if I want to add a particular element, okay, on a particular location, that means I'll say if I want to insert an element on specific, I'll say, okay, specific, okay, specific index number. Okay, so insert an element on a specific index number. So if I want to do something like that, again what I'll use is list1 dot, this time I'll use a function called insert. Okay, this time I'll use a function called insert. Okay, so in insert we have to pass basically two things. First is index number, and second is the object or the element, you can say. So let's say on first, or let's say on 2, I'll say, so basically on 2 now we have C. Okay, so instead of C I want to add something else. Okay, so on 2 I'll add, let's say H. Instead of 2 I want to add H. Okay, so this is how I'll just simply do that. And if I say print and again list 1, okay, so let's print that list 1, and let's run that program again so that we can see it. So now we can see that H is there, so whole list is shifted one place. Okay, so C was on 2, now C is on 3. Okay, and H is there on 2. Okay, so this is how every element is shifted one place. Okay, and that particular element is added on the given index number. Okay, so that's how we can just use that. Then if I want to loop that list, if I want to loop it, how I can loop it? Okay, so let's say loop with the list. Okay, so if I want to loop it, it's again simple. I'll use for X list 1. I'll open the loop using the colon. Okay, we'll go through the loops again in detail. I'm just considering and giving you an example right now, so no need to worry, but just keep one thing in mind. Okay, this X is a temporary variable, and this X will, or the loop will iterate for every element of list 1. Okay, so it's not like C, C++ or Java wherein we used to write. Okay, so let me write it here in comments. So in Java, C, C++ and Java, what we used to generally do is we used to generally write it like this. Let's say I, or in C, C++ we define it outside. I'm just taking an example. Okay, so generally in Java we write it like this. So I equals to 0, then we use the semicolon, then we say condition, let's say I less than 10, whatever elements, just considering, and then we say I plus plus. Okay, so we don't need to write all those things here in Python. We just need to use the for each. This is an example of for each, which if you have learned Java. So if you have learned Java, or if you know Java, okay, you might have gone through for each in Java. Okay, so it's very similar to that, and here again we create this temporary variable called X, and then we use that, so it will iterate for every element or each and every element of the list. Okay, and in the end we just have to write it like this. Let's say we'll print that temporary variable, so print X. Okay, so here in Python you just need to maintain this particular space. Okay, so if you want to add some more elements to this, let's say if I say print let's say if I just print anything else, if for an example I'll just print Z here, nothing else. Okay, so every time it will print the Z here, and if I try to write, if I write something here, okay, this will be out of the for. Okay, so if I maintain this space, if I maintain this space here, this is basically for. Okay, so in Python we don't use curly brackets for scope, we just need to use those spaces, that is indentation. So we just need to manage that, otherwise we don't need to worry about anything else. Okay, so just an example, so I'll just remove this, we don't want to okay, so let's try. Okay, and if I run that program again, now you can see A, B, C, A, B, H, C, F, E, G. Okay, all the elements are printed, or every element is printed on the next line. Okay, so that's again there, so we don't need to even use the slash n. It is applied by default, it is applied by default, so we don't need to even apply the slash n here. Okay, that's again a good thing in Python. Then If you want to use some decision making statements like if else with Python with the list, that again you can check. Okay, so for an example we will just check if if the element exists or not. Okay, so just for simple check. Okay, so if let's say I'll say again we don't need to use the brackets here, we will use it like this. Let's say if a, okay, so in list 1, okay, and I will again open the scope using the colon and I'll write it like this. So let's say I'll say print, okay, and just a small message, let's say yes, a is present. Okay, so just a simple statement we have used. Okay, so just for an example we have taken a simple statement. Now if I run that program, okay, in the end if you can see here, yes, a is present, yes, a is present. Okay, so that's how again we can get the simple message here. Okay, and all the things are there. So these are the things, this is how basically we use list. Okay, this is how basically we use list, and that's what I was saying, that okay, you can add any kind of elements and anything like that. Okay, so that's the thing we use list. So see you in the next lesson. Hello and welcome to another lesson of Python programming for beginners. In this lesson we will see how we can delete or remove specific element or multiple elements from the list. Okay, so there are several methods to remove elements from the list. So here we are going to learn the 6 ways or 6 methods to remove element from the list. The first method is we are going to use the remove method, remove function, which will remove the specific item which we are passing or which we will pass to it. Okay, then the second method is the pop method, which where we will pass the index number and it will remove the item from given specific index number. Okay, then if we don't pass any index number, that means if the index number is not specified, the pop method will remove the last element or the last item from the list. If we use delete keyword with the index number, if we use the delete keyword with the index number, it will delete the specific element again. But if we use the delete keyword without any index number and it will only pass the list, okay, it will delete the whole list. It will delete the whole list. And the last is a clear function or clear method. This will empty the list. That means this will remove all the elements or this will delete all the elements from the list, but this will not delete the list. Keep that in mind. Okay, a lot of people get confused in the initial stage. Okay, so let's see some of the examples. So what I'll do is I'll just take the example from the last one. So I'll just copy the list from here. Okay, so let me just copy all the list. Okay, so I'll just copy the list from here. I'll just copy it here. Let me create another list here. Let's call it list 2. In this list I'll create let's say a numbered one. Sorry, yeah, let's call it 1. Then let's like this. So let's say 2. Then let me say 3. Then 4. Sorry, yeah, 4. Then let's say 5. Okay, so we have added 5 elements to this particular list as well. Okay, so let's start with the first thing. So let's say using a remove method. Okay, so let's see how we can use that. So if I say let's say list 1 dot remove. Okay, so here I can pass a particular element. Let's say I'll pass a C here. Okay, so if I pass C, let's print that. Okay, let me print that, but before that let's print the original list. Say let's say list 1. Okay, so that we can just check. Okay, so let's see that as well. Now let me run this program. So I'll just move it a bit like this. Yeah, so let's say Python, then we'll say the file name is remove from list.py. okay, so and that's what we are getting the output. And in the end, after removing, we haven't printed it now, so I just want to print that again. So if I say list 1, so after removing the element, let's say if I print this. Okay, let's see again now. So if you can see, there are only 4 elements. Okay, so moving ahead, we will see another methods now. Okay, so let's see with the another method, that is the pop method. So let's try with the pop. Okay, so let's say using pop. Okay, so we will see how we can use that. Okay, so here let's say using pop, I'll say with let's say with index number. Okay, with the index number, so we will use it like that. So let's say list one dot pop. Okay, and I'll say list one dot pop 1, so I'll pop 1. Okay, so let's try that. Okay, this time, and let's print that again. So let's say list 1. Okay, and if I print it like this, let's see what we get. Okay, sorry, so if I run that now, you can see the B is not there now. Okay, so first when we try to remove C, the C wasn't there, so it's the C isn't there. And now when we say list 1 dot pop 1, so from index number 1, that is B, that is removed from, so we only have A, D and E. We only have A, D and E. Okay, let's print the list 2 first now. So we'll use list 2, so I'll use list 2 now. Okay, so just printing list 2 here. Okay, and now I'll check with the other methods. So just want to show you that, but before that, let's say I'll use another pop now. So let me copy this stuff. Okay, so we are not going to use the index number here, so let's say without index number, I'll say without index number. So if I use it like this, let's see what we get. Let me comment this first so that we will not get that, and this now we will just check. So if you can see, we haven't passed any index number, so it has removed the last element, that is E, that is E. So we only have A and D now. We only have A and D now. Okay, so let's take some example from list 2 now. So on list 2 now we will see, so we already have done, let's say remove or pop with the index number and the pop. Okay, so now from list 2 let's say from list 2 we will try. Okay, so we let's see delete keyword. Okay, so we'll use the delete keyword now. Let's say using delete keyword. Okay, with index number we will say with index number. Okay, so if I want to delete anything, let's say delete, and if I say list 2, okay, and if I pass some index number, let's say if I pass an index number 4 or let's say 3, okay, and if I print that list again, so let's say list 2, okay, so let's see the output. So if I run that program again, fine. So initially we were getting 1 2 3 4 5, and when we say list 2 remove 3, so 3 index number is for 4, so it will remove like that. Okay, so now the 4 is not there. Now the 4 is not there. Okay, so that's how we can see that. Then if I say using let's say delete again, but now I'll say without the index number, let's say without index number, so I'm not going to pass index number now. So if I say list 2 means if I say delete list 2, this time it will delete the whole list. This time it will delete the whole list. Okay, so this is going to delete whole list. Okay, this will delete whole list. Okay, this will delete the whole list 2 now. Okay, so we will not get any list 2, and if I try to print it here, it will give me the error because list 2 is deleted and I'm trying to print it here, so I'll get an error now. Okay, so let's see that. So as you can see, it was when we say this. Okay, so line 33 statement or line 34 is printed. Okay, so when we see it's there and then we delete that, so we can see 1 2 3 5 4 was deleted. But when we say delete list 2, and after that when we try to print list 2, now it has given us error because list 2 is deleted. On line 37 the list 2 is deleted, it's deleted completely, and when we try to print that, because it doesn't exist now, okay, it's giving us an error. Okay, so as you can see here as well, now it's throws error, or it defines the errors as well very neatly and properly, so that you can understand everything. Okay, it's not like C++ where you may get confused. Okay, it's somewhat very relevant like Java where again you get proper messages. So you get a proper message here. Okay, as you can see it's declaring everything, it's giving you everything, like okay, the file name is mentioned here, the line number is mentioned here. Okay, file name and line number is mentioned here, and that particular line is also printed, and it's giving you a proper error that okay, name error, name list2 is not defined. Name list2 is not defined because this is deleted now. This is deleted now, so that means this is not defined. Okay, so let me comment this statement and move ahead. Okay, so now we'll just go through the last thing. Okay, so let's say using the clear method. Okay, so let's say clear function or clear method now. Okay, so if I say list2 is already deleted, so I'll use list1 dot clear. If I'll use list1 dot clear. Okay, and now if I say print okay, so print list1. Okay, so here I can use or I can call this statement, I can write this statement because the list1 is not deleted completely. Clear function will delete all the elements from list1, but list1 will not be deleted. Okay, so let's see what we get the output. Okay, so if I run this program again, now see the blank list is printed. Blank list is printed. That means it has printed only the square brackets. There's no element here. There's no element here. Okay, there is no element here, and that's how it works. That's how it works. I hope you have understood how we can remove the elements using different methods. How we can remove the elements using different methods. So we were having different methods like remove, pop with the index number, pop without index number, then delete keyword with index number, and delete keyword without index number, and the clear method. So that's how using these 6 methods we can just remove a specific element or the whole list with those options. So see you in the next lesson. Thank you. Hello and welcome to another lesson of Python programming for beginners. In this lesson we will understand how to copy a list. But before that, we need to understand that we cannot simply write or we cannot simply type list2 equals to list1, because if we do that, list2 will only be the reference of list1. List2 will be only the reference of list1, and if we change anything in list1 or if we add, subtract or do anything with the list1, it will automatically be reflected or it will be done. All the changes will be automatically there in list2 as well. Okay, so that will be a problem. So that's why we should use a proper method to create a copy if you want to do some other operations, and if you don't want those changes to be reflected automatically. Okay, so there are 2 methods or 2 ways to do that. The first is we can use the copy method. So here is copy method, we can say. Okay, and second is list constructor. Second is list constructor. So one is copy method and second is list constructor. So let's see how we can do that. So for ease, I have already defined a list. Okay, I have already defined a list. Let's say list1 that we have A, B, C, D and E, just some alphabets. Okay, so how will I do that? So how will I change or how will I copy a list? So let's start by using the copy method. Okay, so let's say using copy method, we'll say. Okay, so how we can do that? So for an example, if I say list2 equals to list1, I cannot write it like that, but I'll say list1 dot, if I say copy. Okay, so that will be a better one. Okay, so before I print that, let's print a small message like this. Okay, so let's say if I print list1, so let's try to print list1 here first, and then here in the end, after copying that, let's print the list2 as well. Okay, so we'll try it like that, and let's run this. So the terminal is open now, and let's say Python, file name is copylist.py, and here we can see that. So list1 is A, B, C, D, E, and second is as well, we can see A, B, C, D and E. So let's try another example with the same. Okay, so using the list constructor, how we can create the list copy, or how we can copy the list using the list constructor. So let's write that. So let's say using list constructor here. Okay, so let me write it a little better. Yeah. Okay, so let's say using list constructor, how we can do that. So if I say list3 equals to, let's say equals to list constructor I have to use now. So I'll only write list. Okay, I'm not going to use the list one dot list constructor. So that's a wrong way. A lot of people do that in any initial stage. So we have to do it like this. So this is the list constructor, and to list constructor we have to pass our original list. Okay, so that's how we do it. And let's try to print the list3. So if let's try to print that. Let me execute that program again. So here we can see first, second and third, all the three lists are printed, and we have created a copy of that. So that's how we create a copy of list, okay, using the copy method and the list constructor. See you in the next lesson. Thank you. Hello and welcome to the another lesson of Python programming for beginners. In this lesson we will see what are the different ways to create a list. We have already used method 1, or let's say the way 1, okay, using square brackets. So let's define the list again using the same method. So let's say define the list, let's say using, I'll write it specifically now using square brackets, okay. So let's use the square brackets as always we can create. So let's say list 1, if I say equals to, I'll say something, so we have to use the square brackets, and in square brackets we always define it like this. So let's say a comma, then I'll say b, okay, then let's say c, okay, then let's say d. So likewise we always create it, okay, and let me add it the last fifth element, okay. So that's how we always create it, and if I want to print it, okay, so I'll say list 1, okay. So that's the method 1 or way 1. But we can also create a list using the list constructor. In last example we have seen, or we have used the list constructor to copy a list, okay, but in this example we will see how we can use the list constructor to create a list, okay. So let's give it a try again, okay. So let's say using list constructor, okay, to create a list, okay. So let's try that. So how we can do that? So let's define it. Let's call it list 2, okay. So this time I'm going to use the list constructor. This time I'm going to use the list constructor to create a list, okay. So let's write it like this. So list constructor, there's like that, and we have to pass in the double round brackets now, okay. So we have to use the double round brackets. So I'll write it like this, and let me just copy these stuff, okay, just to save the time. I'll just copy this and I'll pass the way elements like that, and this is how we can simply create the list using, let's say, list constructor. So only thing we have to remember here is we have to use the double round brackets. So we have used double round brackets here and here as well, okay. So that's how we can use it, okay. Let's try to check. Let's say print list 2. So we'll say list 2, okay, and let's execute this program. Okay, so let's say Python and the file name is ways to create list.py, okay. So as you can see here, list 1 and list 2 is printed, okay. So in list 1, as always, we have used the square brackets, so that's what we always used, okay, or the most common way to create a list. But second way, there is another way, that is we can use a list constructor to create a list. So if you are using list constructor to create a list, you have to always use double round brackets. Just keep that in mind. I hope you have understood this. So see you in the next lesson. Thank you. Hello and welcome to another lesson of Python programming for beginners. In this lesson we will understand what is tuple. So tuple is another type of collection such as list. The difference between tuple and the list is written with square brackets, whereas the tuple is written with round brackets. So whenever we define the tuple, make sure you define it with round brackets. And the tuple is ordered, but it is unchangeable. This is unchangeable. That means we will not be able to delete we will not be able to delete or remove elements. We will not be able to add the elements, okay. That means tuple, once it is created, you cannot change the values, you cannot change the elements. One thing we can do with tuple is that we can delete the tuple. So let's see how we can move ahead, okay, or how we can just define the tuple. So when I say, for an example, I'll say tuple 1, I'll just call it tuple 1. So here we have to use round brackets. So here is the round bracket. So let's see how we can define it like this. Let's say a, let's take a simple example like that, okay. So again b, then c, then let's say d, it should be in quotes, okay, and in the end let's add e, okay. Let me add a few more, okay. So just to check, let's say f, and let's last one I'll add, okay, so g. So just few I just wanted to make sure, okay. So let's like that. So fine, we have added few elements here to the tuple. Let's see how we can print it. So it's, as always, we'll just say tuple. Okay, so tuple 1, and it will print it. Okay, so let's execute that, and we'll say, let's call it the Python command, and let's write the file name, that is tuple demo.py. As you can see, it's printing with the round brackets. Okay, so the tuple is always with round brackets, the list is with square brackets. Okay, so just keep those differences in mind and you can rock the world. So let's move ahead, we'll try a few other things. So how we can access the element, since it is ordered, we can access the element with the index numbers. So let's see how we can do that. So let's say, or let me write a small comment before that. So let's say access the elements using index number. Okay, so similarly we can write it like this. Let's say if I say tuple 1 and square brackets, let's say if I say 3, okay, so it should give me the particular element from index number 3. So let's go and execute that. So here we write the same thing again, and as we can see, the index number 3, that means 8, that means the 4th element. Okay, so as we know that indexing always starts with 0. So 0 is A, then B is 1, C is 2, and D is 3. Then moving ahead, if I want to check the number of elements, okay, so similar to that, so if you want to check the number of elements, okay, number of elements in the tuple, okay, so it's again similar to that what we have used in list. So what we will use is, we will use again a length method, and in length method we will pass the tuple 1, so object of tuple. Okay, so we have just simply passed it. Let's execute that to check whether it works. So it's we can see that 7 elements are there. So that's how we can just get the 7 elements here. Then if I want to count the number of elements which we let's say if there are same elements, for that I'll just add a few elements here. So what I'll do is, I'll just add one more element which is there. Let's say if I say A is there, then okay, so I have added A twice now. Okay, so I have just added A again, and let's see if I can check that. Okay, okay, so if I want to check if the this element is, or a particular element is there in the tuple, how many times it is there in the tuple. So this particular code will return the number of times, okay, specific, okay, sorry, yeah, specific element. Okay, okay, so in the tuple, let's call it, yeah, tuple. Okay, so oh sorry, it shouldn't be like that. Return, yeah. So now the thing is simple. What we'll use is, let's print it directly. So we'll say, let's say tuple 1 dot, okay, now I'll use a method called count. Okay, and in count I'll have to pass that particular element. So in count method we'll have to pass that element. So if I say A, okay, so it will print me and it will give the result, like how many times the A is repeated. So if I execute this program now, as you can see, the total number of elements are 8 now, and since we have added this extra A here, okay, and if you can see, A is repeated 2 times. A is repeated 2 times. Okay, so that's how we can just get it. Okay, then if I want to check the index number of a particular element, if I, let's say if I don't know that, okay, so similar to that, how we'll use it. Okay, so if you want, let's say return the index number, okay, index number of given element. Okay, so similar to the list, we can use the index method here as well. So I'll use a tuple 1 dot index. Okay, and in index we will pass the element. Okay, so for an example, if I say E, okay, so it will return the index number of E. Okay, so let's run that program. So here we are getting 4. The index number of E is 4. Okay, so that's how it works. Now let's see how we can use for loop, okay, or loop with the tuple. Okay, so let's loop with, let's say, let's call it tuple. So this is again similar to that. Let's say for X in, I'll say tuple 1. Okay, let's open the loop and let's print the X. Okay, so it's exactly same as that of what we have used with the list. Okay, so let's run this program again. So as we can see, all the elements are printed on the next line. Okay, all the elements are printed on every row or every next line. So that's how we can use it. Similarly, let's try check how if we can use if. Okay, so we can use if as well. So if I want to check if item exists, okay, so let's check for that. We're using the if. Let's say if we say let's say I'll call it B this time. Let's say B in tuple 1. Okay, open the, okay, so we'll just open the if and we'll say, let's say, okay, we'll use this small statement. Let's say yes, B is present. Okay, and let's see if we get that output or not. Okay, so let's run that code again. So as we can see, in the end it's printed. Okay, so B is present. Okay, yes, B is present. That's how we can use. Okay, so that's how we can just deal with all the things like a tuple. So it's more of like a list. It's more of like list. Okay, only thing is we use the round bracket. And it's immutable. We cannot delete any elements. We cannot add any elements. Okay, we cannot remove any elements. Okay, so that's the thing. So whenever we create the tuple, or whenever we define the tuple, just make sure you use the round brackets. Okay, but there's another way to create a tuple. Let's see how we can do that. Okay, so let's say another way to create a tuple. Okay, that's again using, let's say, tuple constructor. Okay, so that's again using tuple constructor. Okay, so let's see how we can use that this time. So let me call it tuple2 equals to, this time I'll use the tuple constructor. So again we have to use the round brackets here. Okay, and in round brackets we will pass the elements like this. Let's say A, then if I pass let's call it, sorry, yeah, it should be in quotes, then B, then let's say C, then let's say D. Okay, so I'll just keep it like this. Let's keep it short. Okay, and let's say print, and if I print it like this time, let's say tuple2. Okay, so let's see the output, what we get now. So as you can see, we are getting that in the end. Okay, A, B, C, and D. It's printing A, B, C, and D. Okay, so that's how it is printed. Initially the tuple 1 was A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Okay, now we have A, B, C, and D. Okay, so that's in tuple 2. So that's how we deal with tuple. I hope you understood the things. See you in the next lesson.
Hello and welcome to another lesson of Python programming for beginners. In this lesson we will understand and we will learn about the decision making statements in Python. That means we will understand and we will try to cover if, else if and else statements in Python. So let's start with defining some variables. Okay, so let's define some values or variables, whatever we want to call it. Let's say A equals to, let's take a simple, B equals to, let's keep it 20, and let's say C equals to 30. So we have taken just 3 variables. First we will try with the if statement. Okay, so let's try with a simple if statement. So if I want to write if, I can simply write if, and then I can simply say, let's say B greater than, let's say A. Okay, and I'll have to open the scope now. Okay, so this is what I need to use here. So I'll have to open the scope because we don't use the curly brackets here. So we don't use curly brackets, we use scope. And if I press enter now, if you can see, it has automatically taken some space. Okay, so I need to maintain that space. Okay, for an example, let's print some statement. Let's say B, let's say I'll say B is greater, okay, than A. Okay, so whatever if I want to say, or I can print it in small as well. So if I keep that space here, if I keep this space here, okay, if I keep this space here, that will be in the if only. Okay, so let's see, let's print some other statement again. Let's say print I am inside if. Okay, and let's say this is now I am saying outside. Okay, so if I print here, it is not in if. Okay, so let's say print, and I'll print a small message. Let's say I am outside. Okay, if. Okay, so here we haven't used any space, so there's no space here which is there above. Okay, so if we close, if we remove that space, and if we start from the 0th, let's say pointer, okay, 0th location, okay, so this is outside, so this will consider that, okay, the if is closed here only, if is closed here only. Okay, so that's how we need to maintain that space. So today we will try another method of running this program. Instead of going to a console and writing my Python command, I'll run with this run button. Okay, so here I can click on run this file as well. So here you can see the output we are getting. Okay, so b is greater than a, I am inside if, and I'm outside if. Okay, so all the outputs we are getting. Okay, so that's how we can try this. Okay, so this is how we can just simply write the if. Then let's try the if else. Okay, so if I say if else statement, okay, if else statement, so how we can write the if else statement. So let's try the same code. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just copy the code from here. Let's say I'll just copy this here. Okay, and like this, I'll not write this extra statement now, and here I'll write else. Okay, again I'll have to open the scope because I have to write it inside the else. Okay, so I'll write it like this. Let's say print for an example. Now I'll say a is greater than b. Okay, so this is how we can simply take an example. Okay, so that's how another example for, let's say, if else. Okay, so the first try we tried only if, now we are just trying to check if else. Okay, so let's run this code again and see the output so that we can just check. Okay, so see, we are getting b is greater than a, then a inside I'm inside if, and then I'm inside outside if, and the last statement we are getting from that if else. Okay, so b is greater than a. So that's how we can just simply get that message as well. Okay, then again let's move ahead. If I want to try the if else if, okay, so let's try that as well. So if then we will try else if, okay, and the else, so all that block we will try. So if else if. Okay, but let me make a small change here. Okay, so there's a small change here. We don't write else if here. So let's see what we write. So let me copy the code from here so that we can save a little time. Okay, and let me paste it here. So instead of else if, okay, let me write here. Okay, because we will have that with us. Okay, so let's write here. I'll keep the else apart from that. So we will write elif. Okay, we write elif, we don't write else if completely. Okay, so it's not like C, C++ or Java, it's a little different here. Okay, so instead of writing else if, we write elif. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And now with elif, whatever condition you want to write, let's say if I say a equals b, okay, and if I want to write it like that, let's say here, so if I want to give a print statement, let's say both are same, like that. Okay, or both are equal, both are same, whatever you want to write, you can just write it like that. Okay, and let's try to run that code again. Okay, so let's run that piece of code again. So here we are getting again in the end, okay, b is greater because the b is greater than a. Okay, so that's how we can just get it. Now there's another way to do it, or there is, we can say, shortcut to do it. Okay, but we have to do it, or we'll have to use it only in case of we need to be little cautious for that. For an example, in this if, when we started, or the initial example, we have taken more than one statement in if. There are more than one statement inside if block. Okay, so if you have more than one statement or multiple statements in if block, you cannot use the shortcut method or shorthand method, whatever you call it. Okay, so basically we call it shorthand method or shorthand if. Okay, so how to use this? So let me say shorthand if. Okay, so shorthand if, how we can use that shorthand if. Okay, so but this is only applicable if you're using only single statement like this. Okay, like in this if block we have a single statement, again in else block we have a single statement. For such cases you can use this shorthand method. Okay, so there are different methods, so I'll show you the different methods for single if, shorthand for if only, shorthand for if else, and shorthand for if else if and else. Okay, so we will see the methods for all the three stuff. Okay, so let's start with the shorthand if, how we can write the shorthand if now. Okay, so it's really very simple. We have to write, let's say we have to write all that in single like that. Okay, so let me change a small stuff now. Let's say instead of b greater than a, now we'll say a greater than b. Okay, if it is like that, what we have to do now? Okay, so we'll say like this, let's say, and we'll say, okay, if this is it, let's say, let's print some message. Okay, so we will print a is greater than b. Okay, let's say a is greater than b. Okay, so that's a simple message we can just write here. Okay, but this is what happens is this will not work because a is greater than b. Okay, so we can use, let's say, b greater than a. So let's use the same one now. Okay, so that we can just at least get a message. Okay, so let's change that again to b greater than a. Okay, and let's try to run this piece of code now. So let's see what we get in the end. Okay, so as we can say, again in the end we are getting that b greater than a. Okay, so there's a small error, I kept it. Okay, because I just need to show you the change. Okay, so this is, okay, the greter, so we should have that a here. Okay, so, and if I save and run it again, we can see that now. Okay, so b is greater than a. That's how we can see that. Similarly, I can do it for the another stuff, or let's say if else as well. But again, let me tell you, or let me applicable, this is applicable only for, okay, single statements. Okay, it will be applicable only for single statements. So this is shorthand if, and if I want to use it for, let's say, for if else. Okay, so if else. Okay, so let's see how we can write it like that. Okay, so this is again very simple. If I want to write it for if else, this is very similar to that. This is really very similar to that, but there is a small change. Let me just copy this. Okay, so I'll copy that if else first. Okay, so we have now the if else here. Okay, so let me show you what changes we have. So this say, okay, so what we have to do is we have to copy this statement first. Let's say if the b is greater than a, or whatever. Okay, so whatever you want to call it. Okay, so what the message will be printed, if b greater than a, if b greater than a, we have to write it before this if. Okay, so I'll write it here. Okay, I'll write it here. Okay, and then after that I have to instead of this scope, I don't need the scope, I'll simply call that else here. I'll simply call that else here. Okay, so else will be here. Again, I don't need a scope here. Okay, and I'll call that value here. Okay, so I'll call that here. Okay, so this is how we will write it. Okay, this is how we will write it. Okay, so this is simply we can write it. Okay, so this will be printed. So this means this is a simple thing. If this will be printed if b is greater than a, this will be printed if b is greater than a. Okay, this will be printed if b is greater than a, else this will print this. Okay, so this is how we can just deal with this. Okay, so this is really simple. So the first message will be printed if the condition is true, that means if b is greater than a, else this message will be printed. Okay, so this particular message will be printed. Okay, so that's really very simple. Okay, and similarly for if I say okay, before that before we go through the if, else if and else, okay, let's try and run this method first. So as you can see that again we are getting that. So in last output, if you can see, we were getting in the end 3 times, now we have it 4 times, because again we are getting that message. Okay, again it's getting executed. Okay, and in the end now if I try to check with the shorthand if, okay, so shorthand method for, let's say, if else if. Okay, so if else if and else. Okay, so if else if and else. Okay, so we can try for that as well. Okay, So let me do one thing, I'll just copy this line so that I can see, we can save a time and you will be able to understand what is the change here. Okay, so again if I say now what we do is we can write it like that. Okay, so let's say if, else if and all. Okay, so first statement will be printed, first statement will be executed if the b is greater than a. Now the else statement is also there. Okay, it will be printed, but before that if you want anything else, okay, so that is again a way. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll write an else here, okay. Else what I want to print, let's say I want to print a small message. Let's say I want to print both are same. Okay, but when it should be printed, so I'll say if let's say a equals b. Okay, so like that we can add a condition, okay, so let me close that. Okay, so now we can see the whole statement. Okay, so this is how we can see it. Okay, this is how we can see it. So now this is one condition. Let's say if a is greater than b, b is greater than a, it will print b greater than a. Else it will print both are same. Okay, else it will print both are same, but when if a is equals b, okay, else now, okay, so else otherwise it will print a is greater. So likewise we can just use this. So these are three shorthand methods. Okay, but make sure or keep that in mind that it is applicable for a single statement. If you have multiple statements to execute in that, it won't be applicable or you won't be able to use it. Okay, so this is little advanced stuff you should know, so that's why I have just shared it with you. And make sure you practice this, because sometimes this question is also asked, or this is also asked in as a question in interviews. A lot of people ask it, so you should know about it. Then we'll move ahead with using the, let's say a lot of time you might have seen the in C++ or C++ or Java, we use the ampersand operator or and operator, okay, for and operations. Okay, but here we don't use that, we use the and keyword, okay. So let's see how we can use that. For an example, if I want to add two conditions now, so let's say b greater than a, and so I'll write and here, I'll not use the and ampersand sign. Okay, and c, let's say greater than a. Okay, so in such case if I want to print or let's print a simple message. Okay, like both b and c are greater than a. Okay, so both b and c are greater than a. So likewise we can just try it. Okay, so this way you can just use it, this way simply you can just use this. Okay, so if I run this again, let's run this piece of code again. Okay, so as you can see in the end we are getting that message, both b and c are greater than a, Okay, similarly we have OR operations. For OR operations again we can use the similar way. Let me copy this code so that we can save it. So we can use the OR keyword here. So what I'll do is I'll use the OR keyword here. Okay, so I'll use the OR keyword. Okay, so we can say okay, let's say maybe greater than a. So for an example like that. Okay, so just an example, we added a statement. Okay, so and if I run this, okay, we can see that in the end. Okay, so we can see that statement, let's say both b and c may be greater than a. As you can see here, we don't use the symbols here, we use and keyword and the or keyword here for and operation and the or operations. Okay, so I hope you have understood how we can use all the decision making statements like if, else and if, else if. Okay, so see you in the next lesson. Hello and welcome to another lesson of Python programming for beginners. In this lesson we will learn about for loop. So for loop is basically used to iterate over collections such as list, tuple, set, dictionary. Okay, or we can use strings as well. Okay, then means whenever we talk about for loop or if we talk about for loop in Python, it is very similar to the Java way, I can say. Okay, so here just to iterate over for loop, okay, I have taken an example of list. So I have declared two lists here, I have defined two lists here. Now let us see how we can define the for loop. So how we can write a for loop and how we can use it. So just for an example, what I would say is, let's say for each, or you can call it for loop. Okay, so it's like for loop. Okay, here we just call it for loop, but it is like for each in Java. So a lot of people don't know that similar for loop exists in Java as well. So let's take a simple example. So here what we will do is we will loop through the list. Okay, so we will loop through the list. So let's take an example how we can use that. So I'll say for, I'll just declare a temporary variable as we do it in Java. Okay, and I'll say for an example list1. Okay, so list1 or list2, anything you can use. I'm taking list1 here, and I'll simply print the temporary variable x. Okay, so here again in for loop, if you see, I can use another statement. For an example, let's say for and I'll say I am in side for, okay, loop. I'll just write it like this, and here the loop closes. Just to understand, let's say let's print another statement that let's and say I am outside for loop. Okay, so we'll just write that statement just to understand now. Okay, and let's use this button to run the program. So here we can see the output. As you can see, every time 1, 2, okay, 3 and 4 is printed. 1, 2, 3 and 4 is printed. So all the list items from list 1, all the list items from list 1 are printed, but along with them, if you can see, it is printing this statement every time as well, this statement every time. Okay, so because this is in loop, and this statement is printed only once because this is outside the loop. That's what we have understood in the last lesson as well while we were going through the if. Okay, so if we maintain this space, the loop is there. Okay, and if we remove that space, even if I write this statement on this particular line, it will be outside the for, because we haven't kept that space here. Okay, so there's no space here, and we have maintained that space here, or we can in Python we call it indentation. So we just need to maintain that indentation or the space. Okay, so let me remove that so that we can just understand that proper output, or we can see that proper output again. So here if I run it now, I can see that 1, 2, 3 and 4. Okay, and I'm outside the loop. That statement is again coming up. So initially I had added that I am inside the loop just for your understanding. Now we can just move ahead with that. Okay, so let's see how we can do or how we can use the for loop. Okay, so let's say if I say for loop for, let's say string. Okay, so if I want to use a string, or if I want to print every character of a string, okay, I can use the for loop again. So similarly for this again, what I'll do is I'll just again declare another similar variable. Let's say for x, this is a temporary variable, so another temporary variable, and I'll call it for string. So here I can give a simple string. For an example, I'll give Python. I'll give the Python. So we have taken a example string as Python here, and we will print that. So let's print x again here. So now this time it will print the every character from Python. Okay, so on the next line, so let's see that output. So as you can see that every character from the string Python is printed on the next line. Okay, and that's how it will work for the string. So, and if you want to use the, let's say nesting, if you want to use the nested for loop, let's say for we have two lists here, let's say list 1 and list 2. So let's check how we can do the nesting. Okay, so for an example, let's say nested for loop. Okay, so if you want to use the nested for loop, that's again very simple, but what we have to do here is we have to use a little different way. Okay, so let's say for x in, let's call it list 1. Okay, so I'll use it for list 1, and then again now for y, this time I'll use another variable in list 2. So we had declared list 2 already. Okay, and now if I want to print it, now I want to print both the variables x and y. So I can say x comma y, okay, and that's how it will print. Okay, so let's see. So inner loop will execute first. Here again inner loop will execute first, and then the outer loop. Okay, so every time it will go like that. So let's see the output. As you can see here, the inner loop is executing first. For, let's say, from here you can see, so 1a, 1b, 1c and 1d. okay, so list 2 here we have taken is abcd, and the list 1 is 1 2 3 4. okay, so as we can see here, list 2 or inner loop is executed first, abcd, again outer loop, abcd, again outer loop and inner loop. okay, so it's like that. So that's how we can see that. okay, so here is how we can use the nested for loop as well. Then if I want to use break statement in for, that's again we can use it. So let's see that how we can use, let's say, using break in for loop. okay, so if we want to use the break statement, how we can use that. So for an example, again, if I say for x in list 1, okay, so I'll call it list 1, and then if I want to print it, okay, so let's print x. okay, so we have used the similar stuff, but now I'll add that. Let's say if x equals 3, so I can write it like this. I should write it like this, and I should write it in quotes, because as you can see, we have declared all those as strings. okay, so that's why I'm using string. So here now I'll say let's say break. okay, so if it goes like this, so we have written a simple for loop here for x in list 1, and we print the value of every element, okay, from the list. And if x is 3, we just break this iteration. So whenever you use break, okay, it will stop that loop. okay, so let's run this. As you can see, 1 2 and 3, it's printing only 1 3 2 and 3. okay, it's printing only 1 2 and 3, so it stopped on 3. okay, it stopped on 3. So that's how we use break. Then if you want to use, let's say, using continue, so we can use continue as well in for loop. okay, so if you want to use the continue, there will be a small change in the above code. okay, so let's say for x in list 1, I'll use the list 1 again. okay, then I'll use the if first here. okay, so let's say x equals, I'll again say 3. okay, so we'll use the same condition. Sorry, yeah, and now let's say we will use continue. okay, so there's a difference in continue and break. okay, and outside if now I'll use that print statement. okay, so I'll use that print x. okay, so what we'll do here is we will use, if x is equals to 3, we will just continue. So whenever you use continue, so the difference between break and continue, if you use break, it will stop the iteration there. okay, on the given condition. And when we use continue means it will skip the current iteration and it will jump on to the next iteration. So let's see the output here, so that we can understand the exact difference. So as you can see here, we were getting 1 2 and 3, that is for the break. But if you see in the next, there we can see 1 2 and 4. okay, we cannot see 3 here. So on the while 3, the 3 is skipped actually because of the continue, and we can see the 4, so it jumps on the next iteration. So that's how it executes. okay, so I hope you have understood how we can use the for loop, in Python. That's again really very easy. In the next lesson we will see something else related to for loop only. So just practice it properly, and see you in the next lesson. Hello and welcome to another lesson of Python programming for beginners. In this lesson we will learn about range function in Python, which we can use with for loop. okay, so if we use range function with the for loop, it returns a sequence of numbers starting from 0 by default, and increments will be by 1. okay, so by default the increments will be by 1. okay, and if you can define a number, let's say if I say 1 to 5, if I say range up to 5, it will end at the specified number, but remaining that. okay, instead of that 1 minus. okay, so let's say if I say up to 5, it will be 5 minus 1, that is up to 4. okay, so let's see how we can do that, or how we can execute each and everything with the range in for loop. okay, so this is again really very simple. If I want to loop let's say for an example, if I want to loop up to 5, okay, so I can use that range. Okay, so again what I can say is for x in here directly I'll use the range function, so I'll say range and bracket I'll say 5. Okay, so in bracket I'll say 5 and I'll simply say print the x. Okay, so if I say like this, it will print up to 4, not 5. Okay, so by default it will start with 0. I haven't specified any start position now, so it will start from 0. Let's see the output. So as you can see, the output, it's starting from 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4, but it hasn't printed 5. It hasn't printed 5. Okay, so that's how it will go. Let's move ahead with another example for this. Let's say if I want to loop up to 5 again. Okay, but I want to starting from, let's say starting from 1. Okay, so I don't want to start it from, let's say 0. I don't want to start it from 1. Okay, so how I'll be able to do it. Let's say for x in range. Okay, so I'll say range up to, what I'll say, I want to say 5. Okay, I want to say 5, and from, let's say I want to start with 1. Okay, but let me do that first. Okay, so let's say print x. Okay, so if I write it now, it's exactly similar to what I have written in previously. Okay, so let's change a bit. So I want to start it from 1, so I'll specify like this. Okay, so now I am saying this 1 is, okay, this will be the start point. Okay, and this is the end point. Okay, so let's see the output now, what we get. Let's add a simple statement now. Let me add a small print statement, a blank print statement we will use, so that we can differ between the two outputs. Okay, so let's run it now. So as you can see, the old output is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 5. Okay, but 5 is not there. Now the second time when we loop it, or when we specify the particular start position, okay, it started with 1, 2, 3 and 4, but again 5 will not be there. So always whatever the end index you are giving or the end position you are getting, it will be -1. Okay, 5 minus 1. Okay, always the output will be like that. Okay, so hope you understand. Now if I want to increase the step, okay, let's say automatically the increment is by 1, automatically the increment is by 1, so I don't want by 1. Let's say I want to increase by 2 or 5 or whatever number. Okay, so how I'll be able to do that? Okay, so let's say I'll say step increase. Okay, so how we can do the step increase? So let's say for x in, again I'll say range. Okay, so in range now I'll specify the particular location. For an example, here we'll take an example for let's say for example. Okay, so let's say if I want to print the table of 2. Okay, so you want to print the table of 2, every time I'll have to increase by 2. Okay, so and the start position should be 2, so that's how we'll start. So let's say start position is 2 and the end position will be 20. But if I say 20 again, it will not print the 20, it will go up to 19. So, and if the step increase by 2, so it will only print 18, it will not print 20. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll change it to 21, and what I want step increase as 2. Okay, so it's like this, and now I'll print that. So let's say print and we'll print x. Okay, again we will use a blank print here, so that we get a blank line there. Okay, and we can differ between the outputs. So let me run this code again. So as you can see here, the table of 2 is printed, that is 2, 4. Okay, so 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18 and 20. Okay, so we must use 21 here. If we haven't used 21, it would not have printed the 20. Okay, I hope you have understood this now. Okay, and let's see another thing, how we can use else. Okay, so we can use else as well. So let's say using else statement in for loop. Okay, so how we can use else? Okay, so, or what is the purpose of else? So let me start with the blank print first, so that we can differ. Okay, and let's print, let's say for x in I'll say, let's take a simple example, range up to 5. Okay, not more than that, and then I'll print x here. Okay, I'll print x here, but here I'll need else here. Okay, I'll print else. Okay, So I'll use the else statement, and in else, let's say let's use a simple statement, or let's say for loop executed successfully. Okay, so just a simple statement, nothing else. Okay, so what happens with this else is, whenever you use else in for loop, okay, this else will be, or the statement or else will be executed, or else block will be executed only once the for loop is executed successfully. Okay, if there is any interruption in between, or is there any problem, it will not print. Okay, so that's what we face a lot of time, or we don't understand whether the for is executed successfully or not. Okay, so here in Python we have the option to use else. Once the for loop is executed successfully, the else part will be executed. If for loop is not executed successfully, else part will not be executed. So let's see the output. Let's run this. Okay, so we can see that 0 1 2 3 4, and we can use for else with for as well. This is how we can simply use the range in for loop. I hope you have understood everything. See you in the next lesson. Hello and welcome to another lesson of Python programming for beginners. In this lesson we will learn about while loop in Python. Here while loop is very similar to C, C++ and Java. As always, while loop requires predefined variables. With the while loop we can execute a set of statements as long as the condition is true. So let's see how we can execute. So let's define the while loop first. So as we know, we need to have a set of predefined variables first. So let's define a variable. So I'll declare a variable, let's say I equals to 1. I'll define it initially, I equals to 1, and then let's say while I less than, I'll say for an example 10. Okay, so while I less than 10, or like that, whatever you want. Okay, so we can just use I less than 10. Then I'll say print I. Okay, so let's print the value of I, and let's say I'll say plus equals 1. Okay, so whatever you want to add it. Okay, so if you define it like this, this is basically your definition. This is basically your initialization as you write it in C, C++ and Java. Okay, so this is your initialization. This is your initialization. Then here is your condition. Okay, so this is your condition, and here you can use the increment or the decrement. Okay, so here we have used the increment. Okay, and I hope you know the why we use this. So whenever you say okay plus equals to, this means okay, if I don't use this plus, this exactly means this. Okay, so if I say I equals to I plus equals to 1, that means I equals to I plus 1. Okay, so we can write it like this. Okay, so when I say I plus equals to 1, that means I equals to I plus 1. Okay, so that's how we can simply write it. So let's execute this piece of code first so that we can understand what output we are getting. So that's how it's printing 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. So as every time, okay, it will go up to the end index, it will go up to the end position or end index, and it will not print that. Okay, so end index -1 or end position -1 as always. Okay, then let's see how we can use the another thing with the while loop. So let's say how we can use the break. Okay, so how we can use the break in while. Okay, so let me add a small blank print statement first so that we can just differ. Okay, I equals to 1 again, and sorry, yeah. So let's write I equals to 1, then while let's change the value. I'll say I less than 5. Okay, I less than 5, and let's keep it short now, and I'll say print I. Okay, but what we will do is we will add the condition now. So let's say if I equals 3, if I equals 3, let's break. Okay, let's break. Okay, so that's how we can add, and here we will say I plus equals, let's say 1. Okay, so we can simply write it like this. Okay, and if I run this piece of code now, let's see the output. So you can see here 1, 2 and 3, we can see we are getting 1, 2 and 3. Okay, so it stopped on 3. Okay, it's not going for 4 and 5, it's not going for 4 and 5. Okay, so let's see another example how we can use the continue. Okay, so how we can use the continue keyword here. Okay, so similarly it will be very similar to this. So let me copy the code. Okay, so let me copy that code here, okay, and paste it, but I'll change a small thing here. Instead of printing this statement here, instead of printing it here, okay, so let's use this statement afterwards, or let's say before this. Okay, and like this. Okay, so instead of break now I'll use continue. Okay, instead of break now we will use continue. Okay, so we can just start it like this. Okay, and let's give it a run. Let's see the output. So here you can see 1 and 2 is printed, 1 and 2 is printed, but it's not printed this other stuff. Okay, so it stopped on 3, it stopped on 3. Okay, I hope you can see that. Okay, so it stopped on 3. So it stopped here on 3. I had to stop here on 3. I had to interrupt that, so I stopped here because it wasn't continuing on that. Okay, and now there's an error, so we have to make small changes here. So let's see that now. As you could see here, it wasn't printing that, so we'll make a small change here. Okay, I just wanted to show you that how does it. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just add this statement here. I'll just statement here so that it works properly. Okay, and I'll start it from 0 so that we can see the output. Okay, properly. Let's run this piece of code again so that you can understand that. Okay, so as you can see here, 1, 2, 4 and 5 we can see now. 1, 2, 4 and 5 we can see now. Okay, but it hasn't printed the 3. Okay, so it stopped on 3, or it skipped the 3. Okay, so it skips the current iteration and jumps on the another one. Okay, I hope you have understood that that how we can use the continue with the while loop. Now let's just understand how we can use the while loop. Okay, or how we can use the else in while loop. Okay, so using else. Okay, so let me copy the old code first, or let's take any of the example. Okay, so let's take this example and I'll change it. Okay, so yeah, I don't want this if block here. I'll just remove this if block here, so we'll just keep it simple. So it's that simple to it's very similar to the first one. So we used, let's say, I equals to 1, then I less than 10. So here I equals to 1 and I less than 5. So we are just taking a small example, and then print I and I equals to 1. Okay, but now similar to the for loop, okay, I can use else part here, and it will execute once the while loop is executed completely. Okay, so let's print that message. Let's say while loop executed successfully. Okay, so like that we'll just print it. Okay, and let's see the output here. So as you can see, 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 and while loop executed successfully. Okay, so we haven't used a blank print here, that's why it's not taking a space. Okay, so I'll just add this, and now if I execute that again, I hope you can see that. So 1 2 3 4 and while loop executed successfully. So that's how it will work. Okay, so I hope you have understood that properly now. So how we can use the while loop in Python. See you in the next lesson.